Okay, next question. And I think, Andrew, you're up. Do you think money rules campaigns and politics? And what can you do to bring back the one person, one vote rule in our political system?
Well, that's not just a good question, it's a fundamental one. And the answer is literally up to you. Money will continue to dominate politics as long as we allow corporations and other wealthy interest groups to buy elections. But let's be clear, that's not a law of nature. It's not even, in my view, it should not be a law in the United States Constitution. We should amend that document to make it clear that corporations are not people and not to be endowed with those rights. So, it's amazing, I think, to many of us that the Supreme Court of the United States, or at least 5 justices who sit there, took a look at America's political landscape last month and concluded that the biggest problem in this country is that corporate interest groups don't have enough power, and that we need to transform them into people and endow them with the rights of human beings. That's not at all the problem. The problem is they have too much and people have too little. To reform this system, there are a few things we can do. One, we can support, as I do, a system of public financing, like the Fair Elections Now Act. 2, we can require television stations in exchange for their use of the public airwaves to offer candidates time at lower or no cost at all. And 3, we can lead by example. I'm not taking those contributions because I'm trying to send a shockwave to Washington, which needs one. So I want to be clear on this point. I am not a perfect messenger, as you'll undoubtedly hear from the opposition as the months go on. But the challenge we've got at this point, I think, is to be either part of the problem or part of the solution. And the best way to be part of the solution is not simply to decry the influence of corporate contributions and bemoan the state of affairs and wish for a different world. It's to give the money back, as I've challenged every other candidate in this race to do, and I hope they will.
Thank you. You know, I also, in my campaigns, have never accepted PAC money. I also want to salute somebody who's here, a former State Senator, Ken Gordon, who's really helped push the envelope on a lot of these issues. We should give Ken a round of applause. These are not easy battles. You know, I had to raise $1.4 million last time I ran for Congress, and I raised it all from individuals. That's a very difficult thing to do, and I certainly applaud Andrew for going that route. With regard to you know, corporate personhood, Michael, first of all, there's a very short-term issue that we need to deal with, and that's a Supreme Court decision. You know, we can talk about a constitutional amendment. I would support a constitutional amendment. Many people here would. No, it's not going to happen. It's not realistic of us to think the barriers to that. We need Republicans to support it. We need 3/4 of the states to support it. We can start down that road, but I would certainly bet even money with any of you that we're not going to succeed anytime soon on that, because there are powerful interests against it. What we need to do now is A, change the Supreme Court, and I can say Michael Bennet was one of the first senators to stand up to support Sonia Sotomayor, who voted against that decision and on the dissent, 5-4 dissent. And we're only one vote away from having a more progressive Supreme Court, and that's one of the critical reasons we need to keep the Senate Democratic and help keep President Obama there. Secondly, we need to do everything we can under this existing precedence, and Michael Bennet has signed on to we work closely with Russ Feingold to do everything we can within this precedence to prevent this election cycle from being disrupted by this huge outpouring of corporate money. What can we do? We're cracking down on foreign corporations. He's looking at requiring additional transparency to shareholders. He's looking at who owns these corporations so they can't set up dummy corporations, and you have to have one more set of transparency back. He's looking at putting the CEOs on television to say, I'm so-and-so, and we paid for this thing. So everything that we can do under that current precedent to reduce the influx of corporate money in this election, Michael Bennet has stood up and said, yes, that's what I'm here to do. And he's also interested in working on a long-term solution, which ideally will involve a Supreme Court that doesn't consider corporations as living, breathing human beings.
Okay, 2 quick questions, and if you could wait for the microphone, we've had a request for that. Yes, ma'am. In the blue.
Would you please tell me what PAC money Bennet has taken?
It's all publicly available. available, I would direct you to opensecrets.org. One of the, again, I don't support the current laws, but at the very least we have transparency. So you can go to opensecrets.org. There is reporting. You can look at any member of Congress. You won't see any PACs for me. You'll see which ones have given to Senator Bennett. I think some unions have. I think a number of others have. You know, you're welcome to look at that. Again, my own personal opinion is we shouldn't have PAC money. I certainly understand, and I support public financing and campaigns, and I hope that we can get there. I'm a co-sponsor of that bill in the House, and we hope that we can get it out of the House. You know, until that happens, candidates have very difficult decisions to make. You know, and it's not that all, I've always said this, I mean, I tell my friends in the unions, I say it's not that all PACs are bad. We have progressive PACs too, but it's a campaign finance system that doesn't benefit us in the progressive movement. No matter how much we come up with among environmentalists, among organized labor, they're always going to have more on the other side. And for that reason alone, I think we as progressives should continue to push campaign finance reform.
Okay, next question right here in front. Right there. Yes.
Given that that's true, Representative Polis, and you understand, you know, the bad influence of money, particularly in our dysfunctional Senate, and that Michael Bennet has taken so much money, a lot of it even from out-of-state interests. I read in the newspaper the other day that you raised a lot of money for members of Congress and gave a substantial amount to Senator Bennett. That doesn't add up to me.
Corporations, we're talking about individuals. So absolutely, I'm not against individuals supporting who they want. You have the right. I have thousands of donors who've given me $10, $20. Andrew does too. Michael Bennet does too. That's what's good. That's your free speech. Corporations should not have that kind of free speech. They're not mortal. They're not living. They're not breathing. Their mother can't die of cancer. They don't have to worry about their son going off to die in a war. In fact, they only have fiduciary responsibility to their shareholders, and the only thing they're allowed to spend money on are things that are actually going to increase their profits. And that's why they have such a pernicious impact on our democracy.
Andrew?
Let me offer a couple quick thoughts. One, I'm proud that more Coloradans contributed to our campaign in the last 3 months than to any campaign for any office in this state. So 97% of our contributors in the last quarter were from Colorado, and I'm pretty sure 100% were human. I'm proud of that fact. I'm not perfect on this score. I've learned from my experience in the State House, where the scale is much smaller and the stakes are much lower, how pernicious these effects can be. And I think when we look at the U.S. Senate today and see it drowning in corporate cash, we need to make a difference. With respect to the constitutional amendment, the question that came up earlier, I don't think we should concede defeat on that front before we even begin the debate. I suppose it might be a little morbid to hope for a change in the composition of the Supreme Court, but in the meantime, it seems we ought to act now.